Good evening. I'm Eric Johnson, and I would like to talk about the alleged financial benefits of this project. The first thing to realize is that these numbers in the Cosmon study are estimates based on assumptions. And because of that, they are fuzzy numbers. The report itself acknowledges this when it identifies the following statement on the bottom of every page of the report. The key sentence is the last one, which says that, quote, actual results may differ materially from those expressed in this analysis. Let me repeat that. Actual results may differ materially from those expressed in this analysis. If every one of the Rosy projections come true, the city will net an additional $400,000 per year, which sounds like a lot of money. But this only represents less than 1% of current general fund revenues. Or to put it another way, $10 per year for every city resident. Or to put it in even another way, 83 cents a month to everyone in Brea, which won't even buy you a song on iTunes or a Snickers bar. It won't even get you into the 99-cent store. And that's only if the Rosy projections pan out. Let me give an example of why I think everything won't pan out or may differ materially. Madrona has made changes to the expenditure estimates from the Canyon Crest report, such as typical households and equivalent populations. This makes their numbers look better. But evidently they felt the need to show bigger, better numbers, so they added a 20-year projection to their estimates, which was not part of the Canyon Crest report. Imagine if they had done a 20-year projection on their water use. For all of their expenditures, they're estimating a 3% annual growth factor from year to year. In other words, they're expecting costs to roughly stay in line with long-term inflation. The problem comes when you look at Brea's actual experience in year-to-year growth and expenditures. When you look at the major cost components since the 2004-2005 fiscal year, which was the base year from the original Cosmon report, fire costs have actually increased by an average of 6% per year. Public works costs have actually increased by an average of 8% per year. And police costs have actually increased by an average of 9% per year. And this is with flat budgets the last couple of years. This is obviously much different than their 3% projection. Moreover, that does not even take into account the future PERS pension increases that we all know are coming. So now their projected 20-year expenditures of $6.2 million turns into $10.4 million in just these three areas when you look at Brea's actual recent experience. This is an almost 70% cost discrepancy. In other words, the small benefit that has been identified will most likely be squashed by actual events, leaving Brea residents to pick up the tab. This is not the Brea way. Brea has a hard-won reputation of being very fiscally conservative in its assumptions. This fiscal prudence is what has allowed the city to escape the worst effects of the recession. Now let's take a look at the projected economic benefit of $13.6 million. In other words, the money that they imply will come to the city if the project is approved. In essence, what they're saying is that as the new residents of Madrona spend their money, it will create more jobs, and these people will then spend their money, which should create even more jobs. All sounds good, right? But what they don't tell you is that these are regional economic impacts. To the extent that they even actually happen, Madrona wants you to assume that Brea is going to get all, or certainly the lion's share, of the economic benefits. But is this how it really works? While the Brea Mall is an economic driver, it is certainly not the only place to spend your money. As much as each of us may try to spend all of our money in Brea, it just doesn't work out that way. There are too many other options. We don't even know where the people who may get any new jobs will live. We certainly can't assume that it will be in Brea. These numbers are so fuzzy that they don't even try to tie them back to their sales tax projections, which, as was mentioned earlier, only represents a 0.2% increase in current sales tax revenues. Another characterization made by Madrona is that the city will enjoy all these new fees that the project will produce. But the tricky thing about fees in California is that they cannot exceed the cost of providing the service. Anything more is an illegal tax. I know this because this is what I do in my day job. I calculate fees for public agencies throughout California, and I've been doing it for over 20 years. For the building and planning fees, it would only capture the actual cost of the people involved in processing the development. In other words, there is no added benefit to the city. It can only recover the cost of processing the development. Anything more than that would be illegal. Likewise, the capital impact fees are designed to only capture the fair share of added development. Even though the applicant suggested at the January meeting that you could spread these fees around the city, they are designed to capture new development share of new capital construction, like streets and storm drains. They are not designed to make up the difference in any current infrastructure deficiencies. That would be illegal, and I'm sure the city would not charge any illegal fees. So again, there is no actual added benefit to the city, but instead would only try to keep up with development. The same holds true for school fees, which do not even go to the city, but instead go to the school district. These fees are designed to merely keep up with the new influx of students. The EIR also mentions a mitigation measure for Madrona to pay their fair share of additional fire staffing to serve the Carbon Canyon area. Based on this, the city will need to set up a funding mechanism to recover these costs. How will this be done? What funding mechanism will be used? And why is this mechanism not discussed in the EIR? If you are approving this project based on a vision of a financial surplus down the road, you are making a risky bet based on a whole series of guesses about the future, just like a certain bankrupt Idaho insurance company. That uncertain bet needs to be weighed against the negative and permanent impacts to the community, impacts identified in the 3 statements of overriding consideration. The applicant and the investors of the bankrupt insurance company are guaranteed their return if you approve this project, but the city has to bet on projections that, quote, may differ materially from those expressed in this analysis. So say yes to the appeal and say no to Madrona, because a bankrupt applicant is asking all of us to take a gamble on the rosy, squishy, fluffy, lighter than air assumptions of costs that are too low and economic benefits that are too high. And now here's Nicholas Stadden to speak on natural resources.